Volume 27 of rezero has recently come out, and as many of you are aware, there are side stories bundled with these light novels. I recently covered the Emilia side story, showcasing what the Emilia camp are doing. This side story will be focused on Rem and Vincent. I highly recommend you check out the previous side story, which I've also covered on my channel. Before I start, thank you to Kaiser Randall for commissioning this side story and for Fried Hedgehog for translating this side story. As usual, there will be a link in the top comment if you would like to read it yourself, and I have quite a lot of thoughts about this story as it fills in a lot of the mysteries. The story starts all the way back when the Shadrachian tribe attacked the Wallachian encampment. Rem, guided by Louis Arneb, successfully heals the dying Subaru on the floor, and Rem assesses the situation, realizing that Subaru will live. Rem then proceeded to give Subaru a lap pillow. She justified this internally by saying that Subaru is injured and she can't leave someone like that laying on the ground, so a lap pillow will have to do. However, Rem realizes that she's just making excuses, something that she says aloud, which causes Louis to respond with a sound. Rem then focused on her shoulder, the spot where Louis touched, which started the healing process. Rem confirms that Louis simply acted as a catalyst, and the healing came from within Rem herself. Rem is interrupted by Vincent, who notes that Rem can use healing magic, and then states that Subaru has the devil's luck. Rem turned towards the voice, noting the presence the man emanates. Rem was going to thank him, but she lost the thoughts to do so. She, however, realized that Vincent was sizing her up, alongside Louis, almost as if they were products for sale. With this, Rem hid Louis behind her as if to protect her from Vincent. However, Vincent states that he has no malicious intent. He just wants to see if Subaru's efforts were rewarded. Rem is of course confused, but Vincent elaborates that Rem is the reward. Vincent continues, explaining that Subaru's only goal was to save Rem and make sure she was safe, and that Subaru risked his life to save her. Those were the facts. Rem asks Vincent why Subaru went through all of that to save her, but Vincent doesn't know why Subaru wanted to save her. Vincent continues, stating that he doesn't care about why Subaru wanted to save Rem. He moved simply according to his own desires, and saving Rem was a way to reward Subaru, who was a clown. Rem is understandably confused, and Vincent tells Mazelda to clear the area and then regroup with everyone. Vincent then turns to Rem, asking her whether or not she would join the Shadrachians or stay in the camp and die. Rem criticizes the harsh way Vincent portrayed the choices she had to choose from, but Vincent says his time is precious and limited and has more important uses. With that response, Rem's dislike for Vincent increased. However, Rem knew that she had to protect Louis. With Vincent's guidance and Subaru, she knew what she had to do. With that, Rem muttered that Subaru was sleeping peacefully, and then stated that she hated him. And then Rem proceeded to pinch Subaru's nose as he was sleeping. We then get a time skip to Rem at the Shadrachian camp. She notes the large abundance of women, and Tarita explains that more women are born into the Shadrachian tribe, whereas more men are in the Wallachian army. Rem contrasts her experience between the men in the Wallachian encampment and the Shadrachian people. Rem notes that the women were much nicer and answered her questions. She also noted that she had no restrictions on her and she was given a hut to rest in. This hut was where Subaru was sleeping. Rem, however, noticed Louis tug on her arm. We see that Louis had grown attached to Rem and would follow her around. However, Louis had a look of concern on her face, which of course took Rem aback. With this, Vincent chimed in that Louis was conveying that Rem couldn't piece together everything herself at random because she will hit a dead end. She turned towards the voice, who was of course Vincent, and noticed the odd mask he was wearing. The mask failed to restrain his weird imposing presence, and Louis started reacting badly to the mask, which was scaring her. Vincent explains that due to his situation, he would need to hide his face. Rem asked what Subaru and Vincent were planning. However, Vincent explained that Subaru and him weren't working together. It only happened once with the Valachian camp, but in the future, there's no guarantee that it would happen again. Vincent continues, stating that Subaru will plan to avoid the conflict ahead of them, and then plan to flee, and when he does, he will take Rem with him. Of course, Rem was concerned by this, since Subaru planned to take her away, and she could smell the witch's miasma on him. However, she did note that her initial aggression towards him had waned and reduced. Rem asks if Vincent will continue fighting with the women, and Vincent stated he would fight as long as he breathed. Rem said that she had to get away and hide, but Vincent stated how would she get away? She, of course, wouldn't be able to escape him, who represented war himself. So where could possibly Rem go to save herself or hide away from Vincent? No matter where she went, the flames of war would actually engulf her. Rem was getting agitated since Vincent was pretty much saying that she had no options open. However, the silence was interrupted as Louis jumped up and attacked Vincent, grabbing his arm and punching him. However, this did very little damage. Vincent stated that if Cecilus was present, this bold and rash actions would be punished. Rem then asks why Vincent isn't mad at Louis. However, Vincent states that he wouldn't get mad at a child's tantrum. It is of course normal to punish an adult, however a child doesn't understand the intricacies of honor, so Louis is let off the hook. As Vincent peers over them, Subaru included, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but Vincent, Louis and Rem and Subaru are all located inside Rem's hut, and Subaru is sleeping. Rem again asks what Vincent is planning. Vincent again prods Rem to think, stating that those who do not think will lose their heads. He again explains that once Subaru awakens, he will no doubt try and flee with Rem in tow. However, since his involvement with the Valachian encampment transpired, he will be known to the Empire and will not be able to travel normally. This is of course made abundantly clear to Rem, and Rem realized they burned down the Valachian camp, so it's only natural that the Valachian Empire would be looking for Rem and Subaru, who seemingly instigated the attack. Rem asked Vincent what she should do. Vincent states that his only desire is to win, so the advice he gives her will be to benefit him. In other words, she may not end up where she desires if she follows his guidance. Rem states she understands that, but she cannot tell who is good or bad. She will use Vincent and his advice as a test to see if he's on their side. Vincent was surprised by this and takes her up on her bet. Vincent continues, stating that him, Subaru and Rem all need to continue to win their bets if they want to move forward. Vincent continues, stating that Subaru will attempt to flee with Rem, however he will fail on his first attempt while in the city of Guaral. Vincent explains that Subaru needs to experience failure or else he will be unable to stand up. Vincent continues with the plan and Rem continues to listen. Things like what Rem should do once Subaru awakened, what Subaru would want from her, what her aim should be. These were all things that were discussed. Rem stated that no matter what, she would find out the truth about herself, and the story ends. So yes, that is the story, and in my opinion, this is the many reasons why you should read the side stories, because it tells you a lot of information about the main story of ReZero. For example, a lot of us were confused why Rem was so eager to leave the Shadrachian tribe with Subaru, when Subaru suggested running away with Rem and Lewis. And of course, we were all shocked about why Rem didn't unpack her bags when they were in the inn with Flop and Median, and Subaru reasoned that Rem was trying to run away with Lewis in the city of Guaral. But now we know the reason why Rem did these things is because Rem knew that Subaru would fail when they got to the city of Guaral, and of course if they failed they would need to escape. So she didn't unpack her bags because she knew Subaru would fail because of Vincent. So this is the importance of reading these side stories. We also now know that Lewis acted as a catalyst. So I know some people were saying that like Lewis has Rem's memories and Rem was inside Lewis and she was like healing Subaru through Rem, but that isn't the case. We see that the healing magic was actually coming from Rem herself, and also we see why, again, it's also with my previous point, but we see why Rem left the camp with Subaru to go to the city of Guaral, because of course she planned this with Vincent beforehand. So again, it's really interesting that we get all of this information in a side story. So again, it's very important that we read these side stories and we digest that information. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.